Selling your house may very well be one of the largest financial transactions you'll ever make. And that being said, there are a number of key documents that are important in any real estate transaction. In today's video, we're going to go over some of the paperwork you can expect to see.
Welcome back. We are Janie and Jeremy with the Snider family group at Keller Williams Realty Partners in Overland Park, a suburb of Kansas City.
If this is your first time to our channel or you've watched several of our videos, take some time, hit that bell icon and hit the subscribe button so that you are alerted anytime there are new videos when we talk about real estate in Overland Park in Kansas City. Now this is the second part of a series we're doing about when you're wanting to sell your home. Obviously, selling your home is a very large financial transaction, and with that comes some important documents that you have to sign, you have to authorize. Janie, talk a little bit about some of the forms and the documents that are required.
Sure. So the paperwork is my side of the business. You're never going to have a conversation about paperwork with Jeremy. It is very important to me that when we are working with clients, they fully understand what they are signing. I will never push documents in front of them, whether it's paper or electronically, and say, just sign where it says to sign. We're going to review them and make sure that you're comfortable with everything in those documents. So anyway, we start with some very simple information that might seem simple to the seller, but of course it's important legally that we've got all the details right. And so we just confirm the exact names of who has ownership in that property, and that brings up a lot of questions for people who, whether you're married or divorced or anything, in between there. So we have to talk about some of that to make sure that we've got everything legally covered there. Also, some people have their home title in the name of their trust or their will, and we talk about that, and there's some information we need if that's the case too. So we start off just making sure that our paperwork is as accurate as possible, even with those details. And then, of course, we move right into the timing. When do we want showings to begin, and when will we be ready? We talk through that in great detail to make sure that sellers know exactly what's happening and that we are timing it the way the seller wants. Of course, price is on the listing agreement so that we all are on the same page with how we're pricing the home. And we have had, before we do paperwork, we have had extensive conversations already about pricing the home, and once that final decision is made, then we can complete the paperwork, put the price in, and move forward as well. So of course that's a pretty important detail. I review all the other standard information in the contract beyond that, but honestly most of it is kind of boilerplate stuff that's in every listing agreement, but it is important. There's a reason it's in there. And we review it in great detail. We typically do paperwork electronically with electronic signatures. That's what I mean by that, to make it very convenient for sellers. So whether I am sitting at their kitchen or dining room table with my computer reviewing it, or if we're in completely different states or cities and reviewing it over the phone while looking at our computers, we can make it happen and be just as thorough with that process.
And you're able, even people, you've had experience, people that are out of the country, that you're able to get paperwork authorized in a different country.
Absolutely, as long as the seller has internet connection, wherever they might be. They can be sitting on the beach as far as I'm concerned.
I'd like to be sitting on the beach.
I know. So wherever the seller is, we can get the paperwork done just as long as that electronic internet connection is there. So we make it as easy as possible thanks to those capabilities there. And then of course it's very important, and I spend a lot of time on one of the forms that shows the breakdown of the costs of selling your home. The price that you listed at is incredibly important, but most sellers, they just want to know their bottom line.
How much am I making?
Exactly. How much am I walking away with? And so we break down the estimated closing costs that are associated with selling a home. I make sure they understand every dollar that's on that breakdown, and so that they see the estimate for what they'll be walking away with once the home is sold. And on a side note, this isn't when we're we're signing listing paperwork.
Yep.
But once we do have a contract in place with a buyer, I redo that same document with the exact numbers from the contract. So before a seller signs a contract with a buyer, they know their bottom line before they sign. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then what form are they going to spend the most time with as a home seller?
Sure. So everything I just talked about is actually a very, fairly quick process. We can do that in 20 minutes or so. The document that you're going to spend potentially hours on is the seller's disclosure. It's an 8-page document here in Kansas City. It varies around the country. Ours is 8 pages, and I do that form separately. After we have all the other contract documents signed, then I send out the seller's disclosure. I send out a cheat sheet or an info sheet along with it, so that sellers can have the disclosure in front of them, be working through that, and be working through my info sheet, just to help them hopefully not make common mistakes on the seller's disclosures. We have never had a client sued. We've never been sued, and I tell everybody we work with, we intend to keep it that way. And one of the ways we can do that is by spending a lot of time on the seller's disclosure, because that's a document that can generate lawsuits. It's incredibly important, and realtors really should help their sellers with that document to make sure they understand the questions and that they are giving thorough information on that document. When I'm working with a buyer and I see a seller's disclosure that hardly has any information filled in, that is a major red flag. And so I walk our sellers through that and make sure things are worded correctly. I review their answers. I tell them to prepare, to plan on spending at least an hour, if not more. And then they're still not done with it, because then I'm going to review it and I'm going to push it back to them with some suggestions. So we spend quite a bit of time on that for good reason.
Obviously, the seller's disclosure is an incredibly important document, so much so that we have a separate video where that's all we talk about is the seller's disclosures and why that is so important. And you can click that right here to see that video. You stayed all the way to the end. For more information about Kansas City, Overland Park, and real estate, watch these videos right here.